Yesterday at work, my wife Ava casually dropped a bombshell that shattered my entire world. She told me she was going on a date. Yes, a date with one of her colleagues. My name is Nathan. I'm 32, and I've been married to Ava, who's 33, for nearly 7 years. Our marriage had always seemed stable up until recently. We had a quiet life by choice, free of children, something that suited us both, or so I thought. A few months ago, however, something began to shift. Ava started expressing dissatisfaction with her life, saying she felt stagnant and trapped in a monotonous routine. One day, she even suggested that maybe having a child could bring some excitement and meaning into her life. While we had agreed early on that kids weren't part of our plan, I told her I was open to discussing it. But after just a couple conversations, she dismissed the idea completely, calling it a fleeting thought. I chalked it up to a phase or passing anxiety, never suspecting it was a precursor to something far more serious. Then came yesterday when Ava dropped a bombshell. "I'm going on a date tonight," she said completely nonchalantly. At first, I thought it was some kind of joke. I laughed nervously, waiting for her to join in, but her expression stayed dead serious. Her lips pressed tightly, and her eyes didn't waver. She wasn't joking. "What do you mean, a date?" I asked, my voice trembling with confusion and disbelief. She explained in such a casual tone that it felt surreal, saying it was with Eric, a colleague of hers. She claimed it was just a way to add some excitement to her life. The word stuck in my throat like poison. Excitement. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My world was spinning, but Ava remained calm, almost dismissive, as if this was a normal conversation. She went on to explain how Eric also felt stuck in life, and how they had bonded over their shared frustrations. She insisted it was just dinner, harmless, a casual outing between two adults. When I asked her why she even called it a date, her response was chilling. Transparency. She said it as though being upfront about her betrayal made it any less painful. I felt sick. My mind raced, desperate to comprehend what was happening. But before I could say another word, Ava kissed me lightly on the forehead, turned, and walked off to get ready. I was left sitting on the couch, frozen. My emotions were a mix of rage, heartbreak, and helplessness. I watched as she got ready, putting on her favorite scarlet dress, the one she always wore on special occasions. My chest ached as I realized she had chosen this dress not for me, but for someone else. I felt the ground beneath me crumble as she smiled to herself in the mirror. This wasn't my wife, or at least not the woman I thought I knew. My world was collapsing, and she didn't seem to care. Desperate for clarity, I called my best friend Kevin. Too ashamed to admit the truth, I framed it as a problem a colleague of mine was going through. Kevin suggested it might just be an innocent outing, but deep down, I knew better. This wasn't innocent. This was betrayal. Ava returned home earlier than I expected, around 9:30 p.m. She was smiling, but it was strained, hollow. Her lipstick was smudged, her eyes restless. She hugged me and whispered, "It was so exciting, Nathan. Just what I needed." It felt like a knife had been plunged into my heart. Then she dropped the next bombshell. They were already planning a weekend trip together. I couldn't process what was happening. I just stood there, numb, while Ava seemed oblivious of the damage she was causing. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on the couch replaying the events over and over in my mind. It became painfully clear that our marriage was over. There was no going back. But if Ava thought she could treat me like this and walk away unscathed, she was wrong. I had been loyal and faithful for 7 years, and this was how she repaid me. The more I thought about it, the more determined I became. I would make her regret everything. The next day, as Ava buzzed around the house preparing for her weekend trip, I began to formulate my plan. I wasn't going to beg her to stay. I certainly wasn't going to yell or argue. Instead, I would let her feel the cold, crushing weight of her choices. By Saturday afternoon, I had new locks installed on the house. Her key no longer worked. I also packed all of her belongings into trash bags and moved them to the garage. That night, I silently watched as Ava packed her suitcase, humming to herself, so full of anticipation, so giddy about her trip with Eric. I recorded her on my phone as she spoke, capturing her reckless boast about how free and alive she felt. I knew this would be crucial, both for the divorce and to ensure she couldn't twist the narrative later on. Saturday morning, Eric's black car pulled into the driveway. Ava, dressed in another tight red dress, blew me a kiss as she climbed into the car. I didn't react. I just watched them drive away, the final nail in the coffin of our marriage. When Ava returned Sunday evening, she found herself locked out. Her key didn't work, and she began pounding on the door, calling my name. I sat inside, watching her on the security camera. She looked frantic, desperate. When I finally opened the door, her tear-streaked face met mine. "What the hell, Nathan?" she cried, trying to push past me, but I stood firm. "You wanted excitement, Ava." I said, "Well, here it is. Your life as you knew it is over." She pleaded with me, tears streaming down her face, claiming she was sorry and blaming Eric for pressuring her. I didn't care. She had made her choice, and now she would live with the consequences. I handed her the recording I had made of her bragging about her weekend plans. She went pale as she realized she had been caught. "You destroyed us, Ava," I said coldly. "Now you can navigate life on your own." I pointed to the trash bags in the garage and told her to leave. She begged me to reconsider, but I slammed the door in her face. She sat in the driveway for hours, but I didn't budge. The divorce papers would be sent soon, and there was no going back. In the weeks that followed, I felt like I was living in the aftermath of a storm. The house was quieter than ever, but at least it was mine. Ava had wanted excitement. Now she could have it without me. After filing for divorce, I finally began to find my peace. I instructed my lawyer to send the divorce papers to Ava's parents' address, the only stable place she had left. She had left to stay. Ava had been living temporarily with her childhood friend Julia, who I assumed wasn't fully aware of the chaos and betrayal Ava had caused. But Ava didn't just accept the reality of the situation quietly. She bombarded me with texts, calls, and voicemails. Each attempt grew more desperate, filled with emotional pleas. Her mother even called me once, crying and begging for me to reconsider, imploring me to give Ava another chance. However, there was no chance of reconciliation between Ava and me. Only a deep, festering wound remained, a wound I desperately wanted to close forever. Every time I saw her name flash across my phone screen, it wasn't just a reminder of her attempts to reach me. It dredged up memories that felt like acid eating away at my resolve. Her carefree laughter while packing for her weekend getaway with Eric, her dismissive attitude when I pleaded with her not to go, and her unwavering belief that our marriage was indestructible. Those moments only solidified my resolve. Ava had betrayed me and everything we had built together, leaving no path for us to repair the damage. I wasn't surprised when she made her next move, one I had anticipated. One Wednesday afternoon, while I was busy reviewing reports in my office, I heard raised voices outside my door. My secretary was speaking, but I could hear Ava's familiar tone rising above her protests. "Please, just let me talk to him." Ava's voice sounded frantic. I stepped out of my office and saw her standing there clutching the divorce papers. Her hair was disheveled, her eyes red and puffy from crying. The confident woman I once knew was gone, replaced by desperation. My colleagues glanced uncomfortably at the scene as I led her into a private side room. "What do you want, Ava?" I asked, my voice cold, my arms crossed. She held up the divorce papers, her hands trembling. "I can't sign these, Nathan. I can't do this. I love you. Please, let's talk. We can fix this," she begged, her voice cracking with emotion. The woman standing before me was a shadow of who she once was. Gone was the arrogance and thrill-seeking spirit that had driven her to this point. All that was left was emptiness and regret, but I couldn't let myself feel pity for her. "Not now. We have nothing to discuss," I said firmly. "You made your choices, Ava. Now you have to live with them." Tears welled up in her eyes. Her voice trembled as she replied, "It was a mistake, Nathan. I thought it would be exciting, but it turned into a nightmare. I was stupid. I love you. You're the only person I've ever wanted." Her words made my fists clench at my sides. "You thought you could play with fire and then come back like nothing happened? You expect me to just forget everything?" I asked, my voice filled with restrained anger. She reached out to touch my hand, but I stepped back. "I've already given you my answer," I said before leaving the room without another glance. Behind me, I heard her soft sobs, but I didn't stop. It was the only way to protect myself from further pain. For a while after that confrontation, Ava stopped trying to contact me. I heard through a mutual friend that she had started therapy, perhaps the first truly constructive step she had taken since everything fell apart. Even as she worked on herself, I wasn't ready to move on. I needed more than just her signature on the divorce papers. I needed closure. I wanted Ava to fully grasp the depth of the pain she had inflicted upon me. That's when I decided to send her one final message, a message that would leave no room for doubt or misunderstanding. I painstakingly compiled a record of her affair with Eric, detailing every reservation, every meeting, every moment she had tried to downplay. It wasn't just for potential evidence in court. It was a way to force her to see her betrayal from my perspective. I included a short note. "This is why I can never come back. This is why it's over." I had the package sent to her parents' house. The next morning, Ava called me again. This time, she left a voicemail. Her voice was barely audible, weighed down by guilt and sorrow. "I got your package," she began, her words punctuated by deep, shaky breaths. "I understand now, Nathan. I know what I did to you. I know how deeply I hurt you. I know I can never undo that. I wanted excitement, but all I did was destroy the most important thing I had. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand." I listened to the voicemail, feeling a strange mix of emotions. For the first time, she wasn't making excuses or justifying her actions. She was simply acknowledging the damage she had done. It brought me a sense of relief. She finally got it, and that was enough for me to begin healing. The divorce was finalized quietly a few weeks later. There were no dramatic arguments, no last-minute theatrics. Ava signed the papers without resistance. She moved back in with her parents, and I stayed in the house, my house now, with her name erased from every part of it. At first, the emptiness of the house felt strange, but as time passed, I found peace in the silence. For the first time in years, I wasn't coming home to pain or uncertainty. I started focusing on myself again. I went to the gym regularly, rediscovered my love for hiking, and even picked up painting, a hobby I had abandoned long ago. My best friend Kevin was a constant source of encouragement, pushing me to keep moving forward when I felt like giving up. Ava made one final attempt to reach out, sending me a heartfelt letter apologizing again and explaining how she was working to rebuild her life. But I didn't respond. It was enough for me that she understood the magnitude of her betrayal. She had her own path to walk, one that no longer intersected with mine. Months passed, and as the seasons changed, so did I. I wasn't the broken man I had once been, sitting on the couch while my wife dressed for another man. I had grown stronger and wiser, realizing that no matter how devastating the fall, it was always possible to rise again. One day, during a hike with Kevin, I met a group of people. Among them was a woman named Emily. She was warm, easygoing, and had a smile that made me feel lighter. She joined us on the hike, and for the first time in what felt like ages, I found myself genuinely smiling. We started talking, and soon after, I asked her out for coffee. It wasn't love at first sight, but it was real. Spending time with Emily reminded me of what love should be. Not grand gestures or dramatic fights, but consistency, respect, and kindness. It was a new beginning, one that was grounded in sincerity and mutual care. And so, my story continues. Ava made her choices and paid the price for them, while I chose to rebuild my life piece by piece. Whether Emily becomes my happily ever after remains to be seen.